साम्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारणी जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री द्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Yes, sir. Which text? 8.
प्रभु जी, chapter 9 का text number 5.
5. Okay.
क्यों होते?
जी जी.
We did it, no?
No, we finished till 4, Prabhuji, yesterday. No. The Jad Bharat one, chapter 9. You read the last one. You read the last one. 4th was the last one you read.
Okay, we'll go to 4.
Thank you, ji.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Yes, so text 8 we are doing, right?
4 problem.
4.
5. Sorry, Prabhuji. 5.
Sachapi tad uha pitra sanidhava eva sadhrichinam ivasma karoti.
Sachapi taduha pitra sanidhava eva sadhrichinameva samkaroti.
Dandamsya adhyapayishyan sahavyahritibhi sapranava shirastripadim.
Chandamsya dhayapayishya saha vyahritibhiha saparanva shiras tripandim
Savitrim Greshma Vasantikan Masan Adhiyanam Apya Asamveta Rupam Grahayam Asa.
Savitrim Greshma Vasantikan Masan Adhiyanam Api Asamveta Rupam Grihayam Masa.
Yes, Jad Bharat behaved before his father like a fool. Despite his father's adequately instructing him in Vedic knowledge, he behaved in that way so that his father would know that he was unfit for instruction and would abandon the attempt to instruct him further. He would behave in a completely opposite way. Although instructed to wash his hands after evacuating, he would wash them before. Nonetheless, his father wanted to give him Vedic instructions during the spring and summer. He tried to teach him the Gayatri mantra along with Omkar and Vyahriti. But after 4 months, his father still was not successful in instructing him. Text 6. Evam satanuja atmanya anuraga veshita chitta shauchadhyayana vrata. Hare Krishna, what happened? Am I not audible or something?
You are audible to
Then why is anyone not reciting the mantra?
No.
Sanskrit is tough, that's fine.
That's okay, but what about the rest of the people? Only 2 or 3 people recite all the time. Others don't have books or anything. We've been doing this for 4 years now.
So this is 9, 10, 5th. I missed my connection.
No, but what about the rest of the people? There are so many here, 17 people.
Prabhuji, if all of us start reciting it and it's not synchronous, then it gets a little confusing. Which is why.
But at least someone should do it.
I got it. Please go ahead, Prabhuji. We'll follow Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
We'll chant, Prabhuji.
Yeah, I mean, but what about the rest? There are only just few who do it all the time. What about the rest? Okay. whatever. Evam satanuja atmanya anuraga veshita chitta shauchadhyayana vrata.
Evam
एवं
Savadana
स्वतनुज आत्मनि अनुराग अवेशित चित्तः शौच अध्यायन
Niyama gurva anala shushrushanaadya औपकुर्वाणक कर्मण्य
Anala
यत नियम गुरु अनल शुश्रूषण अधि औपकुर्वाणक
अनभियुक्तान्य अपि समनुशिष्टेन भाव्यम इत्यसद आग्रहः पुत्रम्.
अनभियुक्तानि अपि समशिष्टेन भाव्य इति असत् अग्रहः पुत्रम् अनुशयस्य
अनुशास्य स्वयं तावद अनधिगत मनोरथः काले न प्रमत्तेन स्वयं ग्रह एव प्रमत्त उपसमहृतः.
Anusashya
अनुशास्य स्वयं तावत् अधिगत मनोरथः कालेन प्रमथेन स्वयं गृहे एव प्रमतः
May I read from
Yes, please.
Hare Krishna Vadanda Pradhan. Translation purport by Sri Prabhupada. Sri Prabhupada Jai. Translation. The Brahmin, father of Jarbharat, considered his son his heart and soul, and therefore he was very much attached to him. He thought it wise to educate his son properly, and being absorbed in this unsuccessful endeavor, he tried to teach his son the rules and regulations of brahmacharya, including execution of the Vedic vows, cleanliness, study of the Vedas, the regulatory methods, service to spiritual master, and the method of offering fire sacrifice. He tried his best to teach his son in this way, but all the endeavors failed. It is hard to hope that his son would be a learned scholar, but at all, his attempts were unsuccessful. Like everyone, this Brahmin was attached to his home, and he had forgotten that he would die. Someday he would die. Death, however, was not forgetful. At the proper time, death appeared and took him away. But what? Those two attached to family life, who forget that the death comes in the future to take them away, become attached to and unable to finish their duty as human beings. The duty of human life is to solve all the problems of life, but instead people remain attached to family affairs and duties. Although they forget death will not forget them. Suddenly, they will be kicked off the platform of the peaceful life, family life. One may forget that he is to die, but death never forgets. Death comes always at the right time. The Brahmin father of Bharat wanted to teach his son the process of brahmacharya, but he was unsuccessful due to his son's unwillingness to undergo the process of Vedic advancement. Jad Bharat was simply concerned with returning home, back to Godhead, by executing devotional service through Sarvanam Kirtanam Vishnu. He did not care for the Vedic instructions of his father. When one is fully interested in the service of the Lord, he does not need to follow all the regulatory principles initiated by the Vedas. Of course, for ordinary men, the Vedic principles are imperative. No one can avoid them. But when one has attained the perfection of devotional service, it is not very important to follow the Vedic principles. Lord Krishna advised Arjuna to ascend to the platform of Nisasgonia, the transitional position above the Vedic principles. Trigune e Vishya Veda. Distarum the Bhavarjuno. Nidvidyo Nitya Satvasito. Nirgyono Keshame Atmade destiny. They mainly deal with the subject of the three modes of material nature. The idea of these modes, O Arjun, be transition to all of them, be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self. Bhagavad Gita 2.45. Thank you for your program.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much. He thought it wise to educate his son properly, and being absorbed in this unsuccessful endeavor, he tried to teach his sons the rules and regulations of brahmacharya, including the execution of Vedic vows, cleanliness, the study of the Vedas, the regulative methods, service to the spiritual master, and the method of offering a fire sacrifice. He tried his best to teach his son in this way, but all his endeavors failed. See, death, however, like everyone, this Brahmana was attached to his home and had forgotten that someday he would die. Death, however, was not forgetful, and at the proper time, death appeared and took him away. See, Traigunya Vishaya Veda, Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna, Nirdvando Nitya Sattvasto, Niryoga Kshema Atmavan. So Krishna is advising Arjun, the Vedas mainly deal with the subject matter of three modes. Now, this is very important. Bhagavatam, see, Bhagavad Gita is still very straightforward. In Bhagavad Gita, everything is spoken straight away. But Srimad Bhagavatam cuts the knowledge into layers. If you study Bhagavatam, you will understand the subtleties of Dharma. Bhagavad Gita talks blunt. Bhagavad Gita is straightforward. But Bhagavatam deals with subtleties. In how many ways, actually, we are attached to this material world. We're seeing these big descriptions. And more or less, like one devotee pointed out to me that, Prabhu, this is also repetitive. One devotee told me that, sometimes maybe devotees are not so motivated. Bhagavatam is so repetitive. Actually, it is not repetitive. It appears to be repetitive because we don't understand the nuances of what we are studying here. I mean, practically every episode of Bhagavatam that we are seeing the same thing. Priyavrat Maharaj became a Grahastha, was a sannyasi, became a Grahastha, then again left it. Kardam Muni did the same thing. Then there was Dhruv Maharaj, same thing. You may think, oh yeah, these are all just repetitions. But actually, if you see, there are subtleties. Priyavrat is a prince. And he has taken, he's a prince of the universe. He's a brother of Devahuti. Actually, they are all family members. So, Priyavrat Maharaj is a brother of Devahuti. But he knows what material life means. So, he immediately takes renunciation. He doesn't stay at home. He becomes a renounced personality. But after living in brahmacharya for many, many years, he's forced to come back because dharma demands so. So his return from the position of sannyas to grahastha is not out of his compulsion, his bodily or mental compulsion, but it's a compulsion of the universal order. Therefore, Brahma advises him to do that. And so for the sake of dharma, he sacrifices his brahmacharya. That's the lesson there. That for the sake of a higher principle, sometimes we have to sacrifice lower principles. And now the nuance of dharma is so difficult to understand here. How can, accepting a wife and giving birth to children be accepted as dharma instead of completely surrendering to the Lord, just like the four Kumaras did? But still it is, because it's a higher principle. Because there are living entities who need bodies to execute devotional service. Understanding that nuance of dharma, Priyavrat Maharaj accepted the order, instructions of Lord Brahma to take Grahasthashram. And also, Lord Brahma explained another subtlety of dharma, that your renunciation is nothing but a subtle envy of the Supreme Lord himself. So if you disregard Lord's instruction to protect your brahmacharya, you are actually envious of the Lord. So he takes Grahasthashram, and after executing his duties perfectly and restoring order in the universe, because there were some universal discrepancies for which he was forced to execute Herculean tasks, like dividing the earth into 7 planets, 7 islands, then changing the course of the sun. So many things he did. This was to show us what dharma really means. So we can see the subtleties of dharma here. And eventually, so our so-called brahmacharya or our so-called sannyas can also be nothing but a disguised envy of the spiritual master or the Supreme Lord. We have to understand what is the true principle. So that is the lesson we learned from Priyavrat Maharaj. Kardam Muni had a desire to have a family and immediately he regretted it. And therefore he took sannyas again. But Lord had to appear through him, through his agency. So therefore Kardam Muni, this desire was in his heart. Similar is the case with Dhruv Maharaj. Dhruv Maharaj had a desire to rule the earth. And even though he gave up that desire, the Lord still wanted to fulfill it. So the lesson we learn is that while we approach the Lord, we should not keep any material desires in our heart, because the Lord will fulfill them. So in this way, same kind of activity, but subtleties of dharma, different nuances that we have to understand. So here we see now the Brahmana was too attached to his family. So even though he was living as an ideal grahastha, still his activities were on a material plane. He taught the rules of brahmacharya, there is the study of the Vedas, the performance of sacrifices, the recitation of mantras, purification, so many things he was trying to teach his son. But still, all of that is to be considered on a material plane because it was not transcendental, it was not connected to Krishna. The objective was aham mameti, my son. My son must be purified. So many times, even as devotees, we think, oh, my family could become devotees. My family should become devotee. The thought of my family is material. After that, whatever comes is then, is then irrelevant. The very basic thought of my family, which is like a seminal connection, that itself is on a material platform. So therefore, when we are executing our devotional service, we must keep all the lessons of Bhagavatam in our heart. We should try to understand. So every time we are discussing these cantos, my request to you is please keep a diary and take notes. Please try to understand what subtleties of dharma we're talking about here, because all of it is going to be useful to you in some part, in some way or the other. And we are still dealing with very basic dharma here. When we go to Chaitanya Charitamrita, it will become still more complex. And we are just touching the tip of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. So you see, we are not a sentimental religion, we are a very scientific philosophy. But the only problem is that we have to be very diligent. Otherwise, we will not understand all of this. This will just become like a pious reading. So the Brahmana was trying to teach so many activities to his son, but the son would not take any instruction. So these injunctions are applicable to all those who are in a contaminated stage of life, all those who are within the material domain. But for one who is liberated, one who has already attained the love of God, all these rules and regulations are completely irrelevant. They are not applicable to him. And why is that? That is because he has already transcended all of this. He has attained the objective. Sometimes you play games and there are many rules to follow. But if you win the game already, like in Ludo, for example, or Snake and Ladders, you are snakes and ladders when when you cross the mark of 100, you will win the game. You don't have to go back. There will be no snake waiting to gobble you up after 100. So, but there are others who are still stuck in some lower numbers like 10, 20, 50. They have to play the game. They have to play the game because they are still not delivered. That's material world. In fact, one interesting thing is that the game of Snake and Ladder was actually an ancient Indian game. Talking about, it was called Moksha. It was about how Maya ensnares you and how the sages deliver you. So you see, that's how we have to understand the instructions of Srimad Bhagavatam. So here, while we are studying the supreme character of Jada Bharat, we are also trying to understand the character of his father. And somewhere down the line, we'll find that this has echoes in our own character. So we need to be very, very diligent in our practices of spiritual life. That we should not fall in the category. While we praise the character of Jada Bharat, we should also analyze the character of his father. And we should be very careful to remove those traces from our own. Hare Krishna. Yes, any questions or comments here?
Hare Krishna. The situation is that Jada Bharat's father was a materialistic person, Brahmin.
Yeah.
Like a usual person, he was trying to improve his son. Without realizing that Jada Bharat is a very elevated person, And he's posing to be Jar because he didn't want to do all these things. He wanted to be out of it. So that he can go to the spiritual things. The question is, what should the father do then? We can't leave the son like that, no? Maybe it was ignorance. I'm doing out of ignorance. But then I have a duty to do that. And I'm not that advanced to understand what is happening in my son's mind. What should be done?
You mean in case of his father?
Yeah.
Okay.
Father is a common gentleman. Right? It is a Brahmin, it is a materialistic person, not very advanced. So as usual father, he tried to behave like this. What he should be doing otherwise? Leave him like that.
Okay. What did Maharaj Anga do? Remember the story of Prithu Maharaj?
Yeah.
Prithu Maharaj's father, Vena. And what did his father do? What did Vena's father do? Maharaj Anga, when he saw that Vena is a rascal, the third class personality, the demon, he took sannyas. He understood that a father's responsibility is to deliver the son from the clutches of death. But if the son is so low class that he won't accept, then father has to relinquish his responsibility. So the father should have ideally taken sannyas. And anyway, what was he doing for so long in household? Beyond a point, one has to renounce the household. We're talking about the Vedic age, not today. In today's age, also, like ideally, one should leave. If the son was not accepting good instructions, the father should have just given up. He should not have stayed at home till the very death. So that's why father is a fool here. Because he's just instructing his son out of affection. He's not instructing the son on the real basis of Vedic injunctions. His intention is good, but it is all born out of material attachment. It is not transcendent.
When I'm discussing this, there is a live example before me. A very close person, Mataji sitting here, they also know that case. This person is about 85 now. And as an advocate, he is a son who is about 52, 53. And retarded.
Yeah.
So he's so attached with him. He agrees, I'm attached with him. And it's rightly so. Because once the child is like this, family becomes more attached to such children. But I have been telling you, look, you will pass away one day. Nobody can stop that. That what will happen to him? This person is still in the hope. He will find out some way to bail out his son. So what should you do in this case? And nobody is going to accept this boy. Maybe his father dies, he may not even realize his father died. And he will roam out in the road. And somebody may kill him or something. And lose up his property also. This is a Kalyug position. So what should father do then?
Well, what can father do? He's bound by the laws of nature.
Exactly. So he has to wait till the time either he dies or his son dies. He will be lucky if his son dies. Very bad thinking on my part. But in case his father goes away first, there is nobody to take care of this boy. Maybe his karmas and all that. I agree all with those things.
So, well, what he can do is maybe set up a small kind of an endowment sort of for his son and commit him to an institution. There are institutions, there are ashrams which take care of children like people like this. So, put some trust fund sort of and put the child there.
We are searching sex. In fact, in ISKCON, there's some ashram. He will devote every property and everything to ashram. But who will take care of that boy? He's mentally not stable.
Mental institutions, there are
mental hospital. He will be taken to mental. I told him, you like it or not, after you go away, he will take you to HLM.
Hmm.
So I said, better you try all these things better, or the best arrangement you can do it. But such situations are also coming, Prabhu, which are the practical problems.
Yeah, so, well, what to do? Complex problems with complex solutions.
This is God's mercy. I think they're karmas because somebody who was teaching them, he said more than the son, the father is sick. And because of the behavior of the father, the son behaves like this. No, this is also one theory going on, medical theory. I think Sundari Mataji is sitting here.
Yeah.
Sundari Mataji, she knows the case. It's her neighbor only. I know this case about 22 years back when mother committed suicide. And then unfortunately, after a few years, all the sisters, she was burnt to death. And all these things are affecting the child's brain. He says, I'm alone. There's nobody to look after me. Nobody talks to me. But anyway, I know this is no answer to these things. Only thing is to leave it to God. He will find out something.
Krishna will do it. But he should be a devotee. If he's not a devotee, then nothing will work anyway.
He is devotee in his own way. He is devotee in his own way. He believes in God and all that.
Yes, Anu Mataji, you have a question also.
Prabhuji, I have two questions. First is, in verse number 1, in text 1, the way this chapter started, they talked about how great qualities the father has. Right? They are saying he can control his mind, his senses. He studied Vedic literature. He's very tolerant, gentle, and importantly, they said he was self-realized and engaged in devotional service of Lord. If he was self-realized and he was engaged in service of the Lord, how come in text 5 we say that he was way too attached to the family that he forgot the death?
The way Jad Bharat became Jad Bharat. You're getting the point.
To such an extent. No, I get your point. Yeah.
It's not just enough to be self-realized. You have to stay on that platform. You have to be there. You can't neglect those. So here we see that he was completely all right, but he became attached to Jad Bharat.
Attached.
So he also came down from his platform in that way. He should have understood. See, now please understand, this is a very difficult topic, It's a very difficult topic even for a self-realized person, because a self-realized person is naturally very soft-hearted. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that this material world is not a place for a gentleman. That means, you see, like in business, they say that you have to be, you can't love your business. You have to be like practical, you have to be hard-hearted, which is, a euphemistic way of saying you have to be hard-hearted. You have to be practical means you have to be cruel. So
then, go ahead, sorry.
So self-realized soul, unless he's like completely detached, he may fall down. He may fall down to compassion that, maybe I should not do this. And this Brahmana thought that my child is suffering now. It's my responsibility to take care of him.
So then the second question comes. If we feel that, he was self-realized, yes, he got attached, so he fell down. Understandable. But he's not getting attached like Bharat Maharaj was. Bharat Maharaj got attached to a deer. Okay, fine. He just developed affection and then went with it. This person, the father here, he's actually trying to get Jad Bharatji into devotional service, no? The reason why I say that, because Krishna says, wherever you are, you continue to serve me. Means whoever you are around, the best thing you can do to them is you can bring them to Krishna consciousness, right? Yeah. Whether they come or not, that's a different story. At least you give your best try. So he's trying his best, no?
Yeah, you see, that's what, the whole principle is to surrender completely. But that's not so easy. So you keep on pushing it to the limits. Always, keep working at it. Bhakti, we have to see, seeing this, we should become actually very fearful.
Yes, that's why this is not, honestly, I'm not able to understand this, that he's trying his best to get Jarat Bharat to understand how to serve, and yet that is considered at a bodily level.
Yes, still attached to his children and his wives. He had 2 wives.
I don't know, Prabhuji. Please explain. I'm honestly lost. Like, his goal is not to take care of that. His goal, or maybe I'm not getting it right. His goal is not to take care of the son. His goal is, I'm going to teach him the Vedic principles.
No, but
So his goal
there
is
was
to
just
still
attachment.
connect him.
So even though the activity appeared to be transcendental, the goal was still material, because the thinking was my son. And here also he's teaching him all the rituals, but he's not giving him pure devotional service. Jara Bharat has surpassed all those stages. He knows who he is. He's not enamored by the lower principles here. Jara Bharat is frustrated by all these instructions. He knows who he is.
Mm-hmm. It's making it even harder for Jarat Bharat at this time now.
Yes, Jara Bharat doesn't feel any affection for him. He knows that this is all an illusion. But the Brahmana has fallen into that illusion. The Brahmana is doing what Jara Bharat did in the previous birth.
Mm.
So
there is very fine line then, trying to get somebody in Krishna conscious.
Yeah,
there is
so
very
that's why,
fine
we have discussed this previously also. When you are preaching or when you're doing any devotional service, you should always question your motive.
Mm-hmm.
Try to understand what's your motive. Why do you want to preach? Do you want to preach because it's the instruction of Srila Prabhupada, because you know the Shastra? Or do you want to preach because, hey, it's glamorous, I'm a preacher. Haribol.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to question your motivation all the time. See, up to the time we reach Krishna himself, we see him face to face, we can fall prey to Maya at any time. Maya can attack us even through devotional service. So we need to be very, very cautious. So don't slack off in bhakti. In bhakti, you have to be very cautious.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now there's a question here from Pranav Prabhu also. Vedic rules and regulations need to be followed by an ordinary man, but not necessary for a pure devotee. Okay. What is our situation? Since we are not completely pure, should we understand that we need to follow Vedic rituals? We need to follow the principles given by the Acharya, the rules given by Acharya. So try to understand this. Vedic rules and regulations. So Vedic rules are infinite. In the age of Satyug, the rule is meditation. In Treta Yuga, it's yajna. In Dwapar, temple worship. And in Kali Yuga, it's chanting of holy names. So in this age, if I try to meditate or do yajna or worship in the temple, I would fail. Even though that's a bona fide rule. Even though that is a rule. And it will give desired result if I am up to it. Like you go to a petrol pump, you see octane 95, octane 98, diesel. So if you put diesel in petrol car, the petrol will, the car will choke up. And if you put petrol in a diesel engine, the diesel engine will knock and blow its pistons. So you see, both petrol and diesel are fuels, but they're intended for different types of designs, different machines. So that's the thing. So for different age, if we are capable, we would be able to accept the rules and regulations. But since we are not capable, different rules and regulations are applicable to us, but rules and regulations nonetheless. Till the point we see Krishna face to face, we have to follow rules and regulations. That was the lesson we learned in the previous chapter of Bharat Maharaj. That even for a self-realized soul, one has to follow rules. One cannot slack off, otherwise Maya is floating all around. She'll capture us immediately. Krishnera bahirmukh haya bhoga vancha kare, nikate sthat Maya tara japatiya dhare. Krishnera bahirmukh, that means even when we are face to face with Krishna, there is a chance that we can fall down if we don't pay attention to Supreme Lord Krishna himself. If we get distracted even for a moment, Maya will capture us. Hare Krishna. So yes, so rules we need to follow, but not all rituals. There's no this yajna, that yajna, or no, Purushanti, or what do you call that? Vastu Purushanti. All that is nonsense. We have to chant the holy names. We have to follow the 4 regulative principles. We have to take prasadam. We have to study the books, and we have to preach. These are the rules for us. Not to perform yajna. Now suddenly today somebody sent me a message that so and so Maharaj has said that we should chant this some mantra for Purushottam Mas. That will give us love of God. No, nothing will give you love of God if you don't want love of God. So chanting this mantra, that mantra, Purushottam Mas, these are rituals. These are rituals. If your heart is impure, they are not going to purify it. We do all of this. Sometimes people say, oh, do this Pandav Ekadashi and you will fulfill all Ekadashis. Why on earth you want to do that? Our acharyas are not fixed on Ekadashis even. We just do Ekadashi because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted. Otherwise, we are ready to eat rice and preach. So you see, that is the process. So we follow rules and regulations to help us advance in bhakti, not otherwise. They are not going to help. Does that answer your question, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji. It just seems that even in ISKCON, it's kind of a mumbo jumbo philosophy nowadays. No?
Yeah.
It's all mixed up.
Yeah, complete nonsense, Oh, you should recite this Gopal mantra for 30 days. Why? Why only 30 days? Why not 300 days? Lord Gopal, so why not? Why only 30 days? Because, hey, that's a transaction. Lord, please give me love in these 30 days. No, devotee doesn't even want that. Ashlisya va padratam pinashtumam adrshanan marma hata karotuva. Adrshanan marma hata karotuva. You can make me broken-hearted by not being present in front of me. So that's the mood. Gopi Bhav, that is Gopi Bhav. Gopis are not doing this, okay, tonight is like, full moon night, Krishna will like it, we'll do this, and that's it. Krishna will get Krishna's love. No, that was not the motivation. The motivation is that Krishna feels happy, so we are doing it. If Krishna wants to dance in a blazing sun, we'll dance there also. But we are just dancing for the pleasure of Krishna. We don't want anything in return. So because, it may look very devotional and it may be bona fide also. This mantra recitation in this Purushottam Mas or Chatur Mas or whatever. But the subtle principle is violated. The principle of total surrender. The desire becomes mine. I want. So we have to get rid of that. So we can see that even in devotional service, we can be selfish. So we have to get rid of that.
Yes, thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Archana Mataji, you have a question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I have two to three things, which I wanted a little clarification. First thing is since Jad Bharat's father was self-realized, we generally say that it takes one to realize one. So shouldn't he understand that his son is also self-realized, he being a self-realized soul, unless he's an impersonalist or something?
See, self-realized, so degree of self-realization, if he's a pure devotee of the Lord, even an impersonalist is self-realized in that.
That's what I.
So we can here understand that he was a ritualistic Brahmana. So he knew he had Brahman realization, but not complete realization. He didn't know prema. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had 2 wives and 9 children.
I thought so. I thought I'll just confirm this. And one thing is, Prabhuji, you said that we should be very careful when we go to the Supreme Lord, that we should not be having any material desires because he will fulfill it. Yes. But then my question may be stupid, but what is the problem if he fulfills it? Because why I'm saying is because he fulfilled Dhruv Maharaj's desire, he fulfilled Kardam Muni's desire, and at the same time he purified them and he made sure that at the end of it they come back to him. So what is the problem if he fulfills it?
Well, anything connected to Krishna cannot be inauspicious. But when he fulfills your desires, there's every chance that you can fall down.
Yeah, but then he's also giving you the guarantee na, that at the end of this, in the case of Dhruv Maharaj, he said you will rule for so many years and at the end of it, you will come back to me.
See, Dhruv Maharaj also became passionate. If you remember the killing of the Yakshas. So he had to be stopped there. Otherwise, he would have fallen. So there's every great danger. But why should you want material desires? So that means you haven't understood Krishna.
No, not that way, Prabhuji. It's not always possible
No.
all the
Tell me
time.
one thing. Wait a minute. Okay, just give me one theoretical desire that you have. Just some. You can just take some random example.
Yeah.
Name anything. It's all right. Just an example.
I mean, to have a house in Vrindavan.
Have a house in Vrindavan. Now, why do you want a house in Vrindavan?
Because I want to live in the Dham.
You want to live in the Dham. And why do you want to live in the Dham?
But I'm still calling this a material desire.
Yeah. So why do you have this desire? Why do you want to live in the Dham? Why not live in Delhi or say Meerut or say some other city, Faridabad?
Because the atmosphere of the Dham is surcharged with devotion, and being in such an atmosphere is conducive to practicing devotion.
Devotion to whom?
To the Supreme Lord.
So you mean to say that your house in a devotional atmosphere is more valuable than the Lord himself, whom you want?
No, sorry, I didn't get that.
See, you want a house in Vrindavan so that you can live in Vrindavan and remember the Lord. And now the Lord himself is offering himself to you and you don't want him, but you want the house.
Yeah, I want him. I want to develop that love for him. That's why I want that house.
So Lord is saying, yeah, please come, I'll give you that love. But you're saying, no, I want a house because I love you. You're getting the point. Are you seeing? That's why Dhruv Maharaj was regretting that he had that desire. So he regretted that, why did I even desire something like this?
So, no, but Prabhuji, that time I don't know now that the Lord is going to come and give me his love for him when I'm having that desire. That is a preconceived desire.
So you see, you try to understand the subtlety here. The desire is to have a house. The desire is not love of God, the desire is of a house. So you could, if you really desire the love of God, you could just go and sit under a tree in Vrindavan. So many Babajis do that actually.
Yeah,
if you go to Vrindavan, many people live in open. They don't have any houses or anything. In fact, there are some very rich people who just live there like that.
But that's not practical for a woman.
Well, anything is like, what is the consideration of man or woman if you are really so much in love with Krishna? Krishna will protect you. He will send you something. Why do you want a house? You could just ask for a slum somewhere outside Delhi. You can sit there and chant Krishna's name. You're getting the point. These are the subtleties in our own heart. We somehow try to plug our desires to Krishna. But these are all material. These considerations are material. That's why I said, analyze yourself and you will find Krishna.
No, Prabhuji, I completely agree with that. But some things are not in our control. They are still there. But still you are going
Krishna's
to
control. So they are in Krishna's control. Why don't you trust Krishna for that? Why do you think that living... Now imagine you go to Vrindavan and you start living there and Tom Cruise comes to live in your next apartment. What's the guarantee that you'll not fall for him? After all, Krishna is just a concept. Even in Vrindavan, nobody cares. The priest of a temple was asking me for some job in Bollywood. So, so a temple priest was asking me for some job in Bollywood. Because, hey, it's so nice in Bombay. So what's the guarantee? And you are from Bombay. You have enjoyed Bombay life. You have all those sanskaras. You go to Vrindavan, you'll see some pig, passing stool on the street and you'll become disgusted. And then you'll think, oh, Bombay was so nice. Just call up someone and, your things get done. And in Vrindavan, these people are so stupid. You will think like that. You'll go out and rickshawala will cheat you. Something you say, bhaiya log sab cheat karta hai. You're getting the point. Try to find out what is your real objective. That's why I told you, take a diary and write down what is your real objective in life. And then you'll realize that Krishna is not. And that's why we are here. That's why all of us are here. It's applicable to me also. I'm not some high priest sitting in some altars. I'm telling you the truth. None of us actually wants Krishna. None of us. We are here because we are here in Bhagavatam and these places because we are suffering in material life. We want to get rid of that suffering. Once that suffering is over, many will just drop out. Yatatam api siddhanam kaschin mam veti tatvata. Because we don't know what is our real motivation. Even we don't know our own motivation. Krishna knows. That's why sometimes devotees suffer. And we wonder, why Krishna is putting him to suffering. Because even the devotee himself doesn't understand himself properly. So therefore, we have to study Bhagavad and analyze our motivations. What motivates us? Why are we doing this? Write it down. It will be bitter. It will feel horrible. Because we have to see our soul. You will see your soul when you write it down. But that will be the beginning of your real purification.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Anandaram Prabhu ki jai.
Hare Krishna, Dhanavad Pranam Prabhuji and all devotees.
No problem. Yes.
Prabhuji, can you please more systematically guide us on what is that our Acharya Parampara want exactly? Like we see nowadays that a few decades back, we have never heard about these ancient verses to be recited. In fact, 20-25 years back also, then all this Kartik Mas celebration was not so prominent. Later on, that became prominent. Now, whenever Chaturmasya comes or Adhik Mas comes, we hear about Chaurashtakam. Then more prominence is given on about we have that one more Bhadra Purnima, and so many things are coming up, which seems to be like a new avenue. These are all, of course, these are all there in the scriptures from ages. But now all of a sudden, these things are suddenly being highlighted, or we can say for us, it's like popping out. So what exactly do our acharyas really want? Are we focusing on our basic fundamentals very thoroughly and nicely, and then should we elevate for things which are being recommended, all these things like the Purushottam prayers or Chaurashtakam and Namodarashtakam and everything? How do we go about? I mean, especially if we are still in the infant stage, so how do we go about? Because what is the true guidance of the acharyas? That is what is going to help us really. Otherwise, we can also seemingly fall into, though they are bona fide, as you were mentioning also, though they are bona fide, we may just fall into these circles, and we may lose the exact purpose for what we are doing in these things.
So you want to hear the real answer, or you want to hear a soft answer?
No, because in Bhagavatam, we need to hear what our acharyas really wanted. What does Prabhupada really want us from us? What Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur or what Bhakti Vinod Thakur, as far as I understand, they're all in the same line. They don't have any haphazard objectives. Their all objective is only one. So definitely there won't be any contradiction among themselves. So it should be a proper what our sampradaya actually, our acharyas in our sampradaya really want.
Okay. Why go to the whole sampradaya? Let's start with Srila Prabhupada. What you are describing right now, what Srila Prabhupada called the nonsense Western change disease. Change. Prabhupada said, you Westerners are so nonsense. You just want to change everything all the time. Why don't you understand that bhakti never changes? Srila Prabhupada never changed anything. He introduced the principles gradually. Now, someone may question, the Sansar Davanal was not sung in the Gaudiya temples, but Prabhupada introduced it so that we can remind ourselves of the spiritual master in the morning, so that we can, praise the devotees of the Lord in the morning. We can do a complete arati of the deities. And then Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita Bhagavatam. That's what Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur wanted. Srila Prabhupada introduced all the principles which are necessary to bring about the teachings of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who in turn had worked hard to establish the principles of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. So you see, we cannot change anything. All that you are hearing is just change disease, nothing else. Because why do I call it a disease? Because it is introduced by those who are not self-realized. And when one is not self-realized, he has no knowledge. He's running blind. You know, sometimes I'll give you one simple example. You know, sometimes you go to VT station, especially you know, where the central railway, you know, where the central line trains come, not the harbour line trains, where the central line trains come, or you go to the platform where express trains leave, and go to the very end of the platform and look towards Masjid. You'll see hundreds of tracks and hundreds of signals. How will you know which signal is for which track? You can't, because you are not a railway man. But a trained railway engineer or a driver or a technician will know immediately which signal refers to which track, because they are trained. So likewise, scriptures have hundreds of rules and hundreds of rituals. But the Acharya is like the trained engineer. He knows exactly which rule is applicable for whom. Now imagine you're a Rajdhani or a Howrah mail driver, and you look at 20 signals in front of you and 20 tracks, all crisscrossing each other. You don't know which signal is applicable to you. Some is red, orange, green, all kinds of signals. You don't know what is going on. But if you're trained, you know precisely which signal is yours, and you will follow that. So spiritual life is also like that. Many rules and regulations and many rituals. The Acharya knows which one is the most specifically applicable to this person, and he gives that. If you start following all rules and regulations, you'll go around in circles and you'll be lost. Maya will eat you up somewhere. Like this mantra that we are talking about. What is this mantra? You chant it for 30 days and you will attain love of God. How? It's a transaction. You think that reciting one mantra for 30 days will give you love of God. Then why isn't everybody in Vrindavan having love of God? You see, Krishna is not bound by rituals. It's so silly to think we are chanting 16 rounds and studying the Bhagavatam, not so that we'll get love of God by doing this. We are doing this for our purification, so that we can render service to the Supreme Lord. We are doing this to please our Acharya. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado, yasya prasadat nagati kutopi. And we are trying to please the Acharya so that one day we come to the realization that we don't need anything, we just need to serve Krishna. Does that make it clear, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu, this is very truly said, because we have to very perfectly understand that first we have to follow the principle of Acharya Upasana, then only we can approach really Krishna or Srimati Radharani. We may not just able to just sing some very nice bona fide prayer from the Goswami books, and still we may not be able to really approach Srimati Radharani and Krishna, but only by following the Acharyas we'll be able to do that. And whatever is the best, the Acharyas have already given to us. So when devotees are recommending to sing Chaurashtakam or this verse, so why are they not reminding all people to sing Samsara Dhava? Because that is one thing which has to be sung by every devotee. I am sure that not all of us are singing Samsara Dhava every day at least once. So when we are not at the basic, then why all these esoteric things are being loaded? So they may give, but we have to understand what is our level and what we have to practice. And there are so many rituals. Each and every ritual we keep following, then we go just crazy in these things.
See, Prabhu, this material world is a wobbly place. Everything wobbles here. So, see, Krishna himself says, Yatatam api siddhanam kaschan ma veti tatvata. Out of thousands who may endeavor for perfection, one may actually understand Krishna. So it's not that easy. Illusion is in every step of this world. So yes, so we can't save the whole world. We can save only those who approach us. So what we can do is we should just follow the principles as they are given to us. Forget about others. We cannot save anyone. In fact, we'll be very lucky if we are able to save ourselves at least. So don't worry. You follow your principles. It's all right. It's between them and Krishna.
No, I'm not against any devotee recommending things, but I'm trying to try the point that we have to understand where we are. So
Absolutely.
first is, are we following the basic niyamavali which has been assigned to us? That is doing our morning program. If we are not doing that, then all other things are like we are just getting confused by taking them as shortcuts. We think, okay, these things may not be done, but if we do this, then it is like a shortcut for attaining love of Godhead. Yes. We may think that this is the easy way out. There's no easy way out. Acharyas have already given that you have to do our morning program very nicely. We have to chant our 16 rounds with full love, and then we have to read again and again and again, and try to understand that we are so much attached and we are so much in suffering, and then we have to help each other, and then try to become an instrument of grace of the parampara in helping others to come back. So many things to be done. When we land up in rituals, then there is no end.
Absolutely, Prabhu. So we can save ourselves. If someone asks us, we can always answer, but don't volunteer. They say also Socrates, when Socrates was killed, he was punished to death, and after his death, Plato wrote for him, oh, woe be the man who teaches people before they are ready to learn. So, Chanakya also says, don't try to wake up the sleeping people. Don't be awake amongst the sleeping. So that's how it is. If you, Srila Prabhupada, Chanakya Pandit also says, if you feed a snake milk, it will become more poisonous, more venomous. So that's how it is. So if someone is ignorant, someone wants to be ignorant, then you can't help it. If someone is ignorant, you politely point out and they understand. Very nice. But point out once. If they get angry, just leave the place. Don't try to convince. Krishna is not so cheap. Krishna is not available to cheap. Okay?
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. So we stop here today. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam.